Money can change a life in ways that are often ignored until the pressure becomes real. In this story, the lessons are simple, but they are also powerful. They show how to save with discipline, how to handle money with care, and how to build a stronger future through daily choices. These are not complicated ideas. They are practical habits that can help anyone become more responsible, more stable, and more prepared for the years ahead. In this full summary of The Richest Man in Babylon, you will hear the kind of advice that feels clear the moment you hear it, but stays with you because it speaks to real life. You will see why some people always seem to move forward, while others keep starting over. You will learn how small decisions shape long-term results, and why patience matters more than quick success. This is not just about money. It is about self-control, better habits, and a calmer mind. If you have ever wanted a simple way to think more wisely about saving, spending, and building security, stay with this video until the end. The lessons here can help you think more clearly, act more carefully, and move toward a stronger future one day at a time. Chapter 1. Learn save portion of income every single time. Money enters life through effort, time, and opportunity, and it leaves just as easily when there is no control over it. The first lesson in building financial strength is not about how much is earned, but about what happens the moment income arrives. Most people treat income as something fully available for spending, and that habit creates long-term financial pressure. A different approach is required, where saving is not what remains after spending, but what is taken first before anything else happens. A portion of every income must be separated immediately, without delay or negotiation. This action builds a foundation of stability that becomes stronger over time. When income is received and everything is spent, first there is nothing left to build with. That pattern repeats month after month and creates financial stress that feels constant and difficult to escape. The shift begins by deciding that every amount earned has two purposes. One part is for living, and the other part is for building future security. The idea of saving a portion of income every single time is not about restriction, but about structure. Without structure, money behaves unpredictably. With structure, money begins to follow a path that supports growth. Even a small portion matters when it is consistent. What weakens financial progress is not the size of income, but the lack of discipline in handling it. Many individuals with high earnings still struggle financially because spending decisions are made before saving decisions. The first action is simple and must be immediate when income arrives. Before paying bills, before buying anything, before giving money away, a portion must be separated and placed in a secure place. This creates a psychological shift. It signals that future stability is a priority, not an afterthought. At first, this may feel uncomfortable because it challenges old habits. However, discomfort is part of breaking patterns that no longer serve growth. A useful approach is to define a fixed percentage of income that will always be saved. Even if the percentage is small, at the beginning, consistency builds strength. The exact number matters less than the discipline of maintaining it without interruption. Over time, this percentage can increase as financial habits improve. The key principle is that saving is not optional. It is a fixed rule applied to every income without exception. When this habit begins, the mind will try to justify spending first. Thoughts will appear suggesting that expenses are urgent or that saving can be postponed. These thoughts must be observed without action. Discipline means acting according to principle rather than impulse. Income should never be treated as completely available, because that mindset removes the possibility of building long-term security. A practical method is to separate savings immediately upon receiving income, rather than waiting for the end of the month. Waiting creates opportunity for spending to consume what should be saved. Immediate separation removes that risk. This can be done by moving funds into a separate account or storage method that is not easily accessed for daily use. The goal is to create distance between savings and spending behavior. Over time, this practice builds a sense of control. Financial stress begins to reduce, not because income suddenly increases, but because decisions become more intentional. Every act of saving reinforces discipline. Every moment of restraint strengthens future stability. This is how financial resilience is built, step by step, through repeated behavior rather than sudden change. It is important to understand that saving a portion of income is not dependent on income level. Whether income is large or small, the principle remains the same. When income is small, saving teaches discipline under limitation. When income is larger, saving prevents wasteful expansion of lifestyle. In both cases, the habit protects future well-being. One of the strongest challenges in maintaining this discipline is emotional reaction to money. After receiving income, there is often a sense of relief or excitement that leads to impulsive decisions. These emotional states must not be allowed to guide financial actions. A calm and steady approach is required. Money decisions made under emotional influence often lead to regret later. A useful practice is to treat income as a tool that has assigned purposes before it is used. Part of it is assigned to savings, part is assigned to essential living, and part may be assigned to responsibilities. When each portion has a defined role, there is less confusion and fewer impulsive decisions. Structure replaces uncertainty and control replaces randomness. Building this habit also requires patience. Results are not immediate. Savings grow slowly at first, and that can create doubt. However, the purpose is not short-term gain, but long-term stability. Financial strength develops gradually through repetition. The focus should remain on consistency rather than speed. Small amounts saved regularly create a foundation that becomes significant over time. Many individuals struggle because they attempt to save only when extra money is available. This approach fails because extra money rarely appears consistently. A disciplined system removes dependence on surplus and instead creates savings as a standard part of financial life. Every income, no matter its size, contributes to future security. The mindset shift required here is important. Income is not only for consumption, it is also for building stability for future needs. Without this understanding, financial behavior remains short-term focused. With this understanding, every financial decision becomes more intentional. The awareness that future needs will arrive makes current discipline more meaningful. Another important aspect is separating needs from wants. Needs are essential for living and maintaining responsibilities. Wants are additional comforts or desires. When income arrives, the first priority is to handle savings, then cover needs, and only after that consider wants. Without this order, wants tend to consume available resources completely, leaving nothing for growth. Discipline in saving also builds confidence. When money is consistently set aside, there is a growing sense of control over life circumstances. This reduces anxiety about the future because preparation is already in place. Even in uncertain times, having savings provides stability that cannot be replaced by hope alone. A common mistake is increasing spending when income increases. This behavior prevents financial progress because expenses grow at the same rate as income. The solution is to maintain the same saving percentage even when income rises. Additional income should strengthen savings rather than lifestyle expansion. This principle ensures continuous progress. It is also important to create separation between saving and emergency funds. Saving should not be seen as extra spending money. It is a foundation for future opportunities and stability. Emergency funds serve a different purpose and must be built separately over time. Both require discipline but serve different roles in financial structure. The habit of saving must be protected from interruption. One missed cycle often leads to another, and soon the habit weakens. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Even during difficult months, a small amount should still be saved to maintain discipline. This reinforces identity as someone who prioritizes financial stability. Over time, this practice changes decision-making. Spending becomes more thoughtful, impulse reduces, awareness increases. Each financial decision begins to include consideration of future impact. This transformation is not immediate, but develops through repetition. A strong financial foundation is built in silence, through repeated actions that may seem small, but carry long-term significance. Saving a portion of income every single time is one of those actions. It does not require special conditions or perfect timing. It requires only commitment and consistency. There will be moments when progress feels slow or insignificant. During such times, the focus must return to discipline rather than outcome. The habit itself is the source of future results. Without the habit, there can be no lasting improvement. With the habit, growth becomes inevitable over time. Financial independence is not achieved through sudden change, but through steady control over daily decisions. The decision to save before spending is one of the most powerful forms of control. It shifts authority from impulse to discipline and from uncertainty to structure. Every income received becomes an opportunity to reinforce this principle. Each time savings are separated, the foundation becomes stronger. Each time discipline is maintained, confidence increases. Over months and years, this creates a level of stability that supports long-term goals and reduces financial stress. The path to financial strength begins with a simple decision repeated consistently. Save a portion of income every single time without exception. This is not a temporary strategy, but a permanent principle that shapes future outcomes. Through this practice, financial life becomes more stable, more controlled, and more aligned with long-term security. The habit, once established, becomes part of identity. It no longer feels like effort, but becomes natural behavior. At that stage, financial progress is no longer uncertain. It becomes a steady result of disciplined action, repeated over time. Chapter 2. Build habit of paying yourself first always. Most people approach money with a reversed priority. Income arrives and immediately gets distributed toward expenses, obligations, and spontaneous needs. Whatever remains at the end is what they attempt to save, but in most cases, nothing remains. This pattern creates a cycle where financial progress is always delayed and never secured. A stronger system begins by changing the order completely. Before anything else is considered, a fixed portion of income must be directed toward personal financial growth. This is not about luxury or comfort. It is about discipline and long-term self-respect. Paying yourself first means treating your future as a priority rather than an outcome of leftovers. It requires a decision that your growth is more important than immediate consumption. This shift is not emotional, it is structural. When income is received, the first movement of that money should not be outward toward expenses, but inward toward a dedicated place reserved for your own development. That action alone begins to reshape financial behavior. Without this principle, money always finds a way to disappear. It gets absorbed into bills that feel urgent, purchases that feel justified, and expenses that expand to match whatever is available. There is no intentional direction guiding it. Paying yourself first interrupts that pattern. It forces structure onto something that otherwise behaves without discipline. The strength of this habit comes from consistency rather than amount. Even a small portion, when protected at the beginning of every income cycle, builds momentum over time. The value is not in the size of the contribution, but in the reliability of the action. Each time income is received and a portion is secured for yourself before anything else, a message is reinforced. That message is that your future stability is not negotiable. This principle also builds mental clarity. When financial decisions are made only after securing your portion, there is less internal conflict. The priority is already established. What remains can be handled with greater awareness because the most important action has already been completed. This reduces hesitation and emotional decision-making around money. A common struggle is the feeling of pressure from immediate responsibilities. Bills, obligations, and expectations often appear more urgent than personal savings. However, urgency does not define importance. Many expenses demand attention, but only one principle builds long-term independence. When discipline is strong, external pressure does not override internal structure. The order of action remains unchanged, regardless of circumstances. Creating this habit requires a clear system. Income should never enter general use without first passing through a step where your portion is separated. This separation must happen immediately, not after calculations or planning for remaining expenses. Delaying this step weakens the habit because it introduces negotiation into what should be a fixed rule. A rule does not require emotional approval each time it is applied. Over time, this behavior develops a sense of ownership over your financial direction. Instead of reacting to money as it comes and goes, you begin to guide it with intention. This creates stability in thinking. Financial stress often comes from uncertainty and lack of control. When a consistent habit is in place, uncertainty decreases because part of every income is already secured for future use. There is also an important psychological shift that occurs. When you consistently prioritize yourself first, you begin to see your own value differently, not in terms of ego or comparison, but in terms of responsibility. You recognize that if you do not create structure for your own future, no external system will do it for you. This awareness strengthens discipline in other areas of life as well. The habit also protects against lifestyle inflation. As income increases, spending naturally tends to expand. Without a fixed rule that protects your portion first, increased income often leads to increased consumption rather than increased security. By maintaining the same principle regardless of income level, growth is directed towards stability instead of temporary satisfaction. Another important aspect is separation from emotional spending. Many financial decisions are influenced by mood, social environment, or short-term desire. When paying yourself first becomes automatic, it reduces the amount of money available for impulsive decisions. This creates a natural boundary that supports better control without requiring constant resistance. This practice should not depend on motivation. Motivation changes. Circumstances change. Discipline must remain constant. A structured approach ensures that even on difficult days or uncertain periods, the same principle is applied. Over time, repetition removes resistance. What once felt like effort becomes standard behavior. The impact of this habit becomes more visible with time rather than immediately. Early stages may feel insignificant because the amounts seem small. However, accumulation is not just about money but about behavior. Each consistent action builds reliability in decision-making. That reliability becomes more valuable than the amount itself because it determines future outcomes. When financial habits are inconsistent, progress becomes unpredictable. Some months may show improvement, while others show decline. This inconsistency creates frustration and loss of direction. A fixed principle such as paying yourself first eliminates that unpredictability. It creates a baseline that remains steady, regardless of external changes. This approach also improves resilience. Unexpected events in life often require financial readiness. When a portion of income is consistently secured, there is always a growing reserve that provides support during uncertainty. This reduces dependence on external help and increases personal stability. A key discipline in maintaining this habit is resisting the temptation to adjust it based on temporary situations. There will always be reasons that seem valid to delay or reduce the amount set aside. However, allowing exceptions weakens the structure. The habit only becomes strong when it is applied without interruption over time. Financial growth is not the result of random decisions. It is the result of repeated actions aligned with a clear principle. Paying yourself first is one of those principles that transforms financial behavior from reactive to intentional. It removes randomness from the most important part of money management. Eventually, this habit begins to influence other areas of thinking. It encourages long-term planning in decisions beyond finance. It develops patience because results are not immediate but gradual. It strengthens focus because attention is directed towards structured outcomes rather than scattered choices. The foundation of financial independence is built through consistent prioritization of self over consumption. Not in a selfish way, but in a responsible way. When you secure your own future first, you reduce dependency on uncertainty and create space for stability to grow naturally. Over time, this principle becomes part of identity. It no longer feels like a financial tactic, but like a standard way of handling income. At that stage, discipline is no longer forced. It is automatic. Each income becomes an opportunity to reinforce the same decision. That repetition creates long-term strength that cannot be easily disrupted. Financial security does not come from occasional effort. It comes from consistent structure applied every time income is received. Paying yourself first is that structure. It ensures that progress is not left to chance, but built through deliberate action, repeated without exception. Chapter 3. Develop discipline to reduce unnecessary spending daily. Financial stability is not only shaped by how much money enters life, but also by how carefully it is protected from unnecessary loss. Many financial struggles do not come from lack of income, but from small decisions repeated daily without awareness. These decisions slowly reduce available resources and create pressure that feels constant. The discipline to reduce unnecessary spending is what separates financial control from financial chaos. Spending often begins without intention. A small purchase here, a quick decision there, and money begins to leave without clear purpose. At the moment, each expense feels harmless, but over time these small actions accumulate into significant loss. The challenge is not always large expenses, but the repeated pattern of giving away money for things that do not contribute to long-term stability. Developing discipline in spending starts with awareness. Every financial decision must pass through a moment of reflection. Before money is used, there must be clarity on whether the purchase supports real needs or temporary desire. This pause creates space between impulse and action. Without this space, decisions are made automatically and often without consideration of long-term consequences. Unnecessary spending often hides behind comfort. It appears in small rewards, convenience choices, and emotional reactions. These are not always harmful in isolation, but when repeated frequently, they weaken financial structure. Comfort should not be removed entirely, but it must be controlled. The goal is not to eliminate enjoyment, but to ensure it does not override responsibility. A strong method for building discipline is to categorize spending into essential and non-essential groups. Essentials are required for living and maintaining stability. Non-essentials are optional and often driven by impulse or habit. When this distinction is clear, decision-making becomes more structured. Each time money is about to be spent, it becomes easier to identify its category and decide accordingly. Daily discipline is built through repetition of small decisions. It is not about occasional restraint, but consistent awareness. Every day presents opportunities to either strengthen or weaken financial control. Choosing not to spend unnecessarily, even in small situations, builds mental strength. Over time, this strength becomes automatic behavior rather than conscious effort. One of the most common challenges is social influence. Spending is often encouraged by environment, peers, or trends. Without strong discipline, external influence can easily override personal financial goals. Developing independence in decision-making is essential. This means learning to evaluate purchases based on personal priorities rather than external pressure. Another important aspect is emotional spending. When emotions are high, either positive or negative, financial decisions become less rational. People often spend to feel better, to celebrate, or to escape discomfort. These emotional patterns must be recognized. Awareness does not remove emotion, but prevents it from controlling action. A delay in decision-making can often reduce emotional influence and bring clarity. Reducing unnecessary spending also requires understanding long-term impact. A single small expense may seem insignificant, but repeated over time it creates a pattern that limits financial growth. When this pattern is understood clearly, it becomes easier to resist. The focus shifts from immediate satisfaction to long-term stability. Discipline is strengthened when financial limits are respected. Setting clear boundaries for daily or weekly spending creates structure. When limits are defined in advance, decisions become easier because expectations are already established. Without limits, spending expands naturally without resistance. Structure creates control where otherwise there would be none. A practical approach is to delay non-essential purchases. Instead of making immediate decisions, waiting allows time for reflection. Many unnecessary expenses lose importance after a short delay. This simple habit reduces impulsive actions and increases intentional spending. It also builds patience, which is a key component of financial discipline. Another effective method is to track spending regularly. Awareness of where money goes creates accountability. When spending is recorded, patterns become visible. These patterns reveal areas where money is being lost without value. Without tracking, these patterns remain hidden and continue unchecked. Financial discipline is not about deprivation but about alignment. Money should support goals, not distract from them. Every unnecessary expense reduces the ability to build future security. When this understanding becomes clear, spending decisions become more thoughtful. The question shifts from immediate desire to long-term impact. It is also important to understand that discipline grows gradually. It is not achieved in a single moment of decision, but through repeated practice. There will be times when unnecessary spending occurs, but what matters is the overall direction. Each conscious decision to reduce waste strengthens control. Reducing unnecessary spending also increases appreciation for what is truly valuable. When consumption becomes more intentional, satisfaction increases even with fewer purchases. This happens because value is no longer diluted by constant excess. Quality of experience improves when quantity is reduced. Over time, disciplined spending creates financial breathing space. Money that once disappeared into minor expenses begins to accumulate. This accumulation provides flexibility and reduces stress. Financial pressure often comes from lack of margin. When unnecessary spending is reduced, margin naturally increases. The habit also improves decision clarity in other areas of life. Discipline in spending strengthens self-control overall. It reinforces the ability to delay gratification and prioritize long-term outcomes. This mindset becomes useful beyond finance and influences behavior in work, relationships, and personal development. A key principle is consistency. Occasional control is not enough to create lasting change. Discipline must be applied daily across all small decisions. Each day is an opportunity to reinforce the habit. Over time, repetition builds identity. The person becomes someone who naturally avoids wasteful spending without needing constant effort. It is also important to remove justifications that weaken discipline. Many unnecessary purchases are defended with reasoning that feels acceptable in the moment. Recognizing these justifications helps prevent them from influencing decisions. Awareness of thought patterns is essential in maintaining control. Financial strength is not built by income alone, but by retention. What is kept matters as much as what is earned. Reducing unnecessary spending ensures that more of what is earned remains available for meaningful use. This principle is central to long-term stability. Eventually, disciplined spending becomes a natural behavior. There is no internal struggle before every decision. Awareness becomes automatic and choices become aligned with long-term goals without effort. At that stage, financial control is no longer a practice, but a stable part of identity. The foundation of financial growth is built not only on earning and saving, but also on protecting resources from unnecessary loss. Discipline in daily spending is the protection layer that ensures stability is not weakened by small, repeated actions. Through consistent awareness and control, financial life becomes stronger, more stable, and more aligned with long-term purpose. Chapter 4. Practice budgeting income before making spending decisions. Financial control begins long before money is spent. It begins at the moment income is received, and decisions about that income are still open. Without a plan in place, money tends to move in random directions guided by urgency, emotion, and habit. This randomness creates instability even when income is sufficient. A structured approach changes everything. Budgeting before spending decisions ensures that every amount has a purpose before it leaves your control. A budget is not a restriction. It is a direction. It tells money where to go instead of wondering where it went. When income is received without a plan, spending becomes reactive. Bills appear, desires arise, and money gets divided without intention. Over time, this leads to confusion about financial progress. Even with consistent income, there is no clear sense of improvement because the flow of money lacks structure. The discipline of budgeting begins with clarity. Income must be viewed as a system that needs organization, not as free resources available for immediate use. Before any spending occurs, categories must be defined. These categories represent responsibilities, needs, savings, and controlled discretionary use. When this structure exists, financial decisions become less emotional and more intentional. Without budgeting, spending decisions compete with each other. One expense does not wait for another. Everything demands attention at the same time. This creates pressure and often leads to poor prioritization. Budgeting removes this conflict by assigning limits in advance. Each category has its place, and each amount has its role. This reduces confusion and brings order to financial life. The first step in practicing budgeting is to assign purpose to income immediately after it is received. This includes dividing it based on necessity, future stability, and daily requirements. Once these divisions are made, spending becomes a controlled process rather than an open choice. The structure is already in place before any money is used. A common mistake is planning spending after expenses have already started. At that point, control is already reduced. Budgeting must always come before action, not after it. When decisions are made in advance, emotional influence is reduced. There is less room for impulse because boundaries have already been established. Budgeting also creates awareness of limits. Many financial problems arise not from lack of income but from lack of visible boundaries. When limits are undefined, spending naturally expands. When limits are clear, behavior adjusts accordingly. Awareness of constraints leads to better decisions and reduces wasteful use of resources. Another important aspect is prioritization. Not all expenses carry the same importance. Some directly support stability, while others are optional. Budgeting forces clarity on what matters most. It ensures that essential needs are protected before anything else is considered. This prevents situations where important responsibilities are compromised due to unplanned spending. When budgeting becomes consistent, financial stress begins to decrease. Stress often comes from uncertainty. Not knowing where money is going creates anxiety and hesitation. A structured plan removes this uncertainty. Even if income is limited, clarity provides peace because every unit is assigned a purpose. Budgeting also improves discipline in decision-making. When limits are set in advance, every spending choice must align with those limits. This creates accountability. Instead of asking whether something can be bought, the question becomes whether it fits within the planned structure. This shift in thinking strengthens control over time. One of the most powerful effects of budgeting is the reduction of emotional influence. Many financial decisions are made in moments of excitement or pressure. Without structure, these emotions guide behavior. With a budget in place, emotional decisions are filtered through predefined boundaries. This reduces regret and increases consistency. A well-structured budget also highlights patterns. Over time, it becomes clear where money is consistently used and whether those uses are aligned with priorities. This awareness allows for adjustments. Without a budget, these patterns remain hidden, making improvement difficult. Visibility is the first step toward correction. Budgeting before spending also strengthens long-term thinking. Instead of focusing only on immediate needs, attention shifts toward future stability. This change in perspective encourages better allocation of resources. It ensures that present decisions do not compromise future security. Another benefit is reduced financial conflict. When money is unplanned, decisions often feel chaotic. There is constant adjustment and uncertainty. With a budget, each decision has context. There is no need for constant re-evaluation because structure already defines direction. Consistency is essential in this practice. A budget that is created once but not followed loses value. The discipline lies in applying it every time income is received and every time spending decisions are made. Repetition turns structure into habit. Once it becomes habitual, financial behavior becomes naturally organized. Budgeting also builds confidence. When there is clarity over where money is going, decisions feel more controlled. This confidence reduces hesitation and fear around financial matters. It also creates a sense of stability even during uncertain periods because there is always a plan in place. It is important to keep budgeting realistic. If expectations are too strict or disconnected from actual needs, the system becomes difficult to maintain. A practical approach ensures that the structure supports real-life conditions while still encouraging discipline. Balance between control and flexibility is necessary for long-term success. Over time, budgeting changes the way money is perceived. Instead of being something that disappears quickly, it becomes a resource that is actively managed. This shift in perception leads to better respect for financial decisions and more thoughtful use of income. The habit also strengthens accountability. When every unit of income has a defined role, there is less room for careless behavior. Each decision carries awareness of impact. This accountability builds financial maturity and reduces dependence on guesswork. Eventually, budgeting becomes automatic. It is no longer a separate task but a natural part of handling income. At that stage, financial decisions are no longer reactive. They are guided by structure that consistently supports stability and growth. Financial progress is not achieved through random effort, but through organized systems. Budgeting before spending decisions is one of those systems. It transforms money from something that is easily lost into something that is carefully directed. Through consistent practice, it creates stability, clarity, and long-term financial strength. Chapter 5. Strengthen mindset for earning multiple income sources consistently. Financial stability grows stronger when income is no longer dependent on a single source. Relying on one stream of earnings creates pressure because every financial need depends on one path of survival. When that path is interrupted, everything becomes unstable. A stronger approach is to develop the mindset that income can come from multiple directions, each supporting the other. This shift begins in thinking before it appears in reality. Most people are trained to believe that one job or one main source of income is enough. That belief limits financial potential because it ties growth to a single structure. When that structure remains unchanged, financial progress also becomes limited. Strengthening the mindset multiple income sources starts by breaking this limitation and accepting that earning capacity is not fixed to one channel. This shift is not about immediate action, but about internal expansion. Before multiple income sources can be created, the mind must first accept that it is possible. Without this acceptance, effort remains limited to familiar patterns. Growth requires thinking beyond comfort and exploring possibilities that may not have been considered before. A key part of this mindset is understanding that skills have value beyond a single use. Many individuals underestimate their abilities because they only apply them in one setting. However, most skills can be transferred, adapted, or expanded into different areas. When this understanding becomes clear, new opportunities begin to appear naturally. The development of multiple income thinking starts with curiosity. Instead of focusing only on current work, attention shifts toward other ways value can be created. This does not require immediate change but requires observation. There are always needs in the environment that can be solved through effort, knowledge, or creativity. Recognizing these needs is the first step toward additional income possibilities. Fear often blocks this mindset. Fear of failure, fear of uncertainty, and fear of starting something unfamiliar prevent exploration. Strengthening the mindset means learning to move forward despite uncertainty. It is not about removing fear completely, but about not allowing it to control direction. Growth begins where comfort ends. Another important aspect is shifting from employee thinking to value thinking. Instead of focusing only on earning from time spent, attention moves toward creating value that can be exchanged in different ways. Value is not limited to one format. It can exist in services, skills, solutions, or knowledge applied in multiple environments. Developing multiple income sources also requires patience. It does not happen instantly. Many people give up too early because they expect immediate results. However, new income streams often take time to build. The mindset must be prepared for gradual progress rather than instant success. Consistency over time creates results that cannot be achieved quickly. Learning becomes a continuous requirement in this process. New income opportunities often require new skills or improved understanding. Without learning, expansion is limited. Strengthening the mindset means accepting that growth is connected to continuous development. Each new skill increases the ability to create value in different areas. Observation of successful individuals also strengthens this mindset. Many financially stable people do not rely on one source of income. They build systems that allow money to come from multiple directions. This is not accidental but intentional. Studying this pattern helps reinforce the belief that diversification is both possible and practical. A common limitation is overdependence on existing routines. When daily life becomes predictable, thinking also becomes limited. To break this pattern, the mind must begin to consider alternatives. Even small ideas of additional income should be taken seriously and explored rather than dismissed. Every large system begins as a small thought that was developed over time. Another important shift is understanding that time alone is not enough to build financial growth. Time must be combined with strategy. Relying on a single source of income often means exchanging time for money in one direction only. Multiple income thinking introduces the possibility of different systems working simultaneously, reducing pressure on time alone. This mindset also builds resilience. When income comes from more than one source, financial pressure is reduced because no single point of failure exists. If one source slows down, others can continue to support stability. This creates a stronger financial structure that can handle uncertainty more effectively. Developing this sort requires breaking mental barriers about identity. Many people define themselves by one profession or one role. This narrow identity limits exploration. Expanding identity to include the ability to learn and adapt opens doors to new opportunities. Identity becomes flexible instead of fixed. Action begins after mindset shifts. Once the belief in multiple income sources is established, small steps toward exploration become natural. These steps may include learning new skills, observing opportunities, or testing small ideas. The focus is not on immediate success but on building direction. Consistency plays a crucial role. Thinking about multiple income sources occasionally is not enough. The mindset must remain active in daily life. Every situation can be observed from the perspective of value creation. This habit gradually rewires thinking patterns and opens awareness to opportunities that were previously ignored. Another important factor is willingness to adapt. Opportunities often require adjustment in approach. Rigid thinking limits progress, while flexible thinking allows growth in different directions. Strengthening this mindset means being open to change when necessary. Over time, this approach transforms financial behavior. Income is no longer viewed as a single stream, but as a network of possibilities. This shift reduces dependency and increases confidence. Financial decisions become less stressful because there are more options available. it is important to remain realistic throughout this process. Building multiple income sources requires effort, time, and persistence. There are no instant results. However, the gradual development of this mindset ensures that progress continues steadily without dependence on one fragile system. As this mindset becomes stronger, creativity increases. The ability to see opportunities in different areas improves. Problems begin to look like potential income sources rather than obstacles. This change in perception is powerful because it transforms challenges into possibilities. Eventually, the idea of earning from multiple sources becomes natural. It is no longer seen as something extraordinary, but as a normal part of financial life. At that stage, thinking expands beyond limitations and focuses on continuous growth. Financial strength is not built on one pillar but on many. Strengthening the mindset for multiple income sources ensures that stability does not depend on a single point of failure. It creates flexibility, resilience, and long-term growth potential that supports a more secure financial future. Chapter 6. Commit investing profits for long-term growth. Many people misunderstand profit as something meant for immediate enjoyment. The moment extra money appears, the natural tendency is to upgrade lifestyle, increase spending, or reward oneself without restraint. This reaction feels satisfying in the short term, but weakens long-term financial strength. True financial growth begins when profits are no longer treated as consumption fuel, but as building material for the future. Profit is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of responsibility. The way it is handled determines whether financial progress continues or disappears. When profits are consistently spent, progress resets repeatedly. When profits are consistently invested, progress compounds over time. This difference is what separates temporary gain from lasting wealth. Committing to invest profits for long-term growth requires a change in perception. Income covers living needs, but profit represents excess capacity created through discipline and effort. That excess should not dissolve into immediate desires. It should be directed towards systems that continue to generate value, even when active effort is not being applied. A strong financial mindset understands that money has two directions. It can move toward consumption or toward expansion. Consumption provides temporary satisfaction. Expansion builds future capacity. Choosing expansion requires patience because results are not immediate, but it builds a foundation that strengthens over time. The discipline begins with a clear decision that every profit will be treated differently from regular income. While basic income supports daily life, profit must be protected from unnecessary spending. This separation creates structure. Without it, profit is easily absorbed into lifestyle upgrades that do not contribute to long-term stability. One of the main challenges in building this habit is emotional reaction. Profit often creates excitement. That excitement leads to decisions based on feeling rather than planning. To overcome this, profit must be assigned a purpose before it is even received. When intention is established early, emotional influence becomes weaker. Investing profits is not limited to financial markets. It includes any action that increases future earning capacity or financial strength. This can involve skill development, business expansion, or structured savings that generate long-term benefit. The key idea is that profit should work beyond its original form, instead of being consumed completely. Consistency is essential in this process. One-time investment does not create transformation. Repeated commitment does. Every time profit is generated, the same decision must be applied. This repetition builds momentum. Over time, financial growth begins to compound because each cycle adds to the previous one instead of restarting it. A common mistake is mixing profit with available spending money. When there is no clear separation, profit loses its identity and becomes part of general funds. This leads to gradual disappearance of potential growth. Clear boundaries are necessary to protect profit from being diluted by everyday expenses. Long-term thinking is the foundation of this discipline. Immediate spending focuses on present comfort. while investing focuses on future strength. The ability to prioritize future stability over present desire is what creates lasting financial independence. This mindset shift does not happen instantly, but develops through repeated decisions. Another important aspect is resisting comparison. Many individuals feel pressure to use profit for visible lifestyle improvements because they see others doing the same. However, financial strength is built privately, not publicly. What is invested quietly often creates more value than what is displayed openly. Patience plays a major role in this process. Investment outcomes take time to grow. This delay often discourages people from continuing the habit. However, stopping early prevents the benefits of compounding. The real power of investing profits comes from duration, not speed. Discipline is tested when profits are small. It is easier to invest large gains because they feel significant. The real challenge is committing even small profits to long-term growth. This consistency builds a strong foundation that prepares the mind for larger financial responsibilities in the future. Another key principle is understanding opportunity cost. Every time profit is spent instead of invested, future potential is reduced. The value lost is not only the amount spent, but also the growth it could have generated over time. This awareness strengthens decision-making. Over time, investing profits changes financial identity. Instead of being someone who earns and spends, a new identity forms as someone who earns and builds. This shift influences all financial decisions. Spending becomes more intentional, and saving becomes more purposeful. The habit also creates resilience. When profits are consistently invested, financial stability becomes less dependent on current income. There is always a growing foundation working in the background. This reduces pressure and increases confidence in handling future uncertainty. It is important to maintain discipline even during periods of financial success. Success often leads to increased spending temptation. Without structure, higher profits can still result in wasted potential. The principle must remain unchanged regardless of income level or financial situation. Small, consistent actions eventually lead to significant results. What begins as a simple habit of investing profits gradually transforms into a strong financial system. Over time, this system creates stability that does not rely solely on active effort. Emotional control is necessary throughout this process. There will be moments when spending feels more rewarding than investing. In those moments, discipline must override impulse. The ability to delay gratification becomes a key factor in long-term success. As this habit strengthens, financial thinking becomes more strategic. Decisions are no longer made based on immediate desire, but based on future impact. This shift in thinking leads to better allocation of resources and more efficient use of income. Eventually, investing profits becomes automatic. There is no internal debate or hesitation. The decision is made before emotion can interfere. At that stage, financial behavior becomes stable and predictable in a positive direction. The true purpose of committing profits for long-term growth is not only to increase wealth but to build freedom. Freedom from constant financial pressure, freedom from uncertainty, and freedom to make choices based on intention rather than limitation. This freedom is created gradually through disciplined action repeated over time. Chapter 7. Control emotions during financial decisions and changes. Financial decisions are often influenced more by emotion than by logic. Fear, excitement, pressure, and impatience can all shape how money is handled in ways that are not always beneficial. When emotions take control, decisions become unstable and inconsistent. This leads to outcomes that feel unpredictable even when income is steady. True financial discipline begins when emotional reactions no longer dictate financial behavior. Money itself is neutral, but the mind rarely treats it that way. A gain can create excitement that leads to unnecessary risk or spending. A loss can create fear that leads to hesitation or poor timing. Even uncertainty can lead to avoidance of important decisions. These emotional responses are natural, but they must not be allowed to control direction. Controlling emotions during financial decisions does not mean removing feelings. It means separating feelings from action. There is always a moment between emotion and decision. That moment is where discipline is built. Without awareness of that space, actions become automatic responses rather than intentional choices. Fear is one of the strongest influences in financial behavior. It can prevent progress by making safe opportunities feel dangerous or by causing premature withdrawal from long-term plans. When fear appears, it often feels urgent, but urgency does not always reflect reality. Learning to pause before reacting allows clarity to return. Excitement can be equally disruptive. Positive emotion can create overconfidence, leading to decisions that ignore risk or structure. In moments of excitement, it is easy to believe outcomes will always be favorable. This mindset often leads to choices that weaken stability later. Balance is lost when emotion is not grounded in reasoning. Financial discipline requires awareness of emotional triggers. These triggers are situations or thoughts that consistently influence decision-making. Recognizing them is essential. Once they are identified, their influence can be reduced. Awareness creates distance between emotion and action. A key principle is delay. Immediate reaction is where most financial mistakes occur. By introducing a pause before making decisions, emotional intensity naturally decreases. In that pause, logic has space to return. Many decisions that feel necessary in the moment lose importance after time passes. Another important practice is separating facts from feelings. Facts are objective and based on reality. Feelings are subjective and temporary. When making financial decisions, facts must guide direction, while feelings are acknowledged but not followed. This separation creates stability in uncertain situations. Consistency in financial behavior comes from repetition of calm decision-making. Each time emotions are controlled successfully, mental strength increases. Over time, this builds a pattern where rational thinking becomes more dominant than emotional reaction. This shift is gradual but powerful. Emotional control is especially important during financial change. When income increases, there is a tendency to expand spending quickly. When income decreases, there is a tendency to panic. Both reactions can disrupt long-term stability. Maintaining steady behavior regardless of change creates resilience. External influence also affects emotions. Observing others' financial success or struggles can create unnecessary comparison. Comparison often distorts perception and leads to decisions that are not aligned with personal goals. Focusing on individual progress rather than external conditions reduces emotional instability. Another important aspect is understanding that financial outcomes are not always immediate. Delayed results can create frustration, especially when effort is not reflected quickly. This frustration can lead to impulsive changes in strategy. Patience is required to allow processes to unfold naturally, without emotional interruption. Control over emotions also improves when financial plans are clearly defined. Uncertainty increases emotional reactions, while structure reduces them. When there is a clear plan in place, decisions are easier to evaluate objectively. Structure acts as an anchor during emotional fluctuations. Self-awareness plays a central role in emotional control. Recognizing internal reactions before they influence behavior allows better decision-making. This awareness grows through reflection and observation of past decisions. Over time, patterns of emotional behavior become easier to identify and manage. Another useful approach is reducing exposure to unnecessary financial stimulation. Constant focus on money-related updates, comparisons, or speculation can increase emotional volatility. Simplicity in financial attention helps maintain clarity and reduces reactive behavior. Discipline is strengthened when emotional decisions are reviewed after they occur. Reflecting on outcomes helps build understanding of how emotions influence choices. This reflection reinforces better behavior in future situations without requiring external correction. Financial stability improves when decisions are made from a calm and structured mindset rather than from reaction. Calm thinking allows long-term consequences to be considered. Reaction focuses only on immediate relief or satisfaction. The difference between these two approaches determines financial direction over time. As emotional control develops, confidence in financial decisions increases. This confidence is not based on certainty of outcomes, but on trust in the decision-making process. When decisions are made with clarity, outcomes are easier to accept regardless of result. It is also important to accept that emotional fluctuations will always exist. The goal is not to eliminate them, but to prevent them from controlling actions. Emotional awareness combined with disciplined response creates balance. Over time, emotional control becomes a natural part of financial behavior. Decisions no longer feel pressured or unstable. There is a steady approach to both opportunity and challenge. This stability allows long-term planning to remain consistent, regardless of short-term conditions. Financial strength is not only measured by income or savings, but also by the ability to remain steady during change. Emotional control ensures that financial decisions are guided by clarity rather than instability. This creates a foundation that supports consistent growth and long-term security. Chapter 8. Create savings plans supporting future financial security. Financial security does not happen by chance. It is created through intention, structure, and consistency applied over time. Many people hope that saving will happen naturally when income improves, but without a defined system, money continues to disappear into daily demands and unplanned decisions. A savings plan changes this pattern by giving direction to every unit of income before it is used. A savings plan is not simply an amount set aside occasionally. It is a structured commitment that assigns purpose to money before spending begins. It ensures that part of every income is consistently directed toward future stability rather than current pressure. Without this structure, saving becomes inconsistent and dependent on mood or circumstances. The foundation of a strong savings plan begins with clarity about future needs. Financial security is not only about the present moment. It includes preparation for unexpected events, life transitions, and long-term independence. When these future realities are understood, saving becomes meaningful rather than optional. It transforms into responsibility instead of preference. A clear savings plan starts with defining what portion of income will always be protected. This portion must be treated as untouchable under normal conditions. When savings are left without protection, they are easily absorbed by temporary desires or minor expenses that feel important in the moment. Structure removes this vulnerability. Consistency is the most important element in building financial security. Saving once or occasionally does not create stability. Stability is built through repetition. Every time income is received, the same action must be taken without deviation. This repetition creates accumulation, and accumulation creates strength. A savings plan also requires separation from spending money. When all funds are kept in a single place, boundaries become unclear. Clear separation ensures that savings are not accidentally or emotionally used. This separation creates discipline without requiring constant mental effort. One of the most powerful aspects of a savings plan is predictability. When saving becomes regular, financial growth can be anticipated. This predictability reduces anxiety about the future because there's always a growing reserve being built in the background. Uncertainty decreases when structure is present. Many individuals struggle with saving because they wait for extra money to appear. This approach is unreliable because extra money is not consistent. A savings plan removes dependence on excess income and instead uses a fixed system applied to every amount received. This ensures that saving continues regardless of income level. A strong savings plan also helps manage financial pressure. When unexpected situations arise, having a structured reserve reduces stress. Instead of reacting with panic, there is a foundation already in place. This stability provides confidence during uncertain moments. The effectiveness of a savings plan depends on discipline during both high and low income periods. When income increases, the temptation is to increase spending. When income decreases, the temptation is to stop saving. Both reactions weaken long-term progress. Consistency must remain unchanged regardless of financial fluctuations. Another important aspect is patience. Savings grow gradually over time, and early stages may feel slow. However, the purpose of saving is not immediate satisfaction but long-term security. The value of savings increases with time and consistency rather than speed. Understanding this helps maintain commitment during slow progress. A savings plan also encourages better financial decision-making. When savings are prioritized, spending becomes more intentional. Every expense is evaluated based on its importance relative to long-term goals. This awareness naturally reduces wasteful financial behavior. Over time, saving becomes more than a habit. It becomes part of financial identity. The act of setting aside money no longer feels like effort, but like standard behavior. At this stage, financial discipline is no longer forced but automatic. Structure is essential for maintaining a savings plan. Without structure, saving becomes dependent on memory or motivation, both of which are unreliable. A fixed system ensures that saving happens consistently without requiring constant decision-making. This removes uncertainty from the process. A savings plan also builds resilience. Life situations can change without warning, and financial pressure can appear unexpectedly. When savings are consistently built, there is always a buffer that supports stability. This reduces dependence on external help and increases independence. Another important factor is resisting lifestyle expansion. As income increases, there is a natural tendency to adjust lifestyle upward. Without control, this adjustment consumes potential savings. A strong savings plan prevents unnecessary expansion and protects long-term growth. Tracking progress is also valuable. When savings are monitored, progress becomes visible. This visibility reinforces discipline and strengthens motivation to continue. Seeing gradual growth builds confidence in the process and encourages consistency. A savings plan should remain simple and practical. Complexity often leads to inconsistency. When systems are too complicated, they become difficult to maintain. Simplicity ensures that saving remains sustainable over long periods of time. The true purpose of a savings plan is not only accumulation of money, but creation of financial security. Security provides freedom from constant worry about the future. It allows decisions to be made with clarity rather than fear. This sense of stability becomes more valuable over time. Discipline is tested when spending opportunities arise. There will always be reasons that appear valid for using savings. However, strong financial systems depend on resisting unnecessary access. Protecting savings ensures that they serve their intended purpose. As time passes, the impact of consistent saving becomes more visible. What once seemed small gradually becomes a meaningful foundation. This growth is the result of repeated action rather than large individual contributions. Consistency always outweighs intensity in financial progress. A well-structured savings plan also improves confidence in handling life decisions. When there is a financial reserve in place, choices are made with less pressure. This creates emotional stability and allows focus on long-term goals instead of immediate concerns. Eventually, saving becomes a natural part of financial life. It no longer requires conscious effort or reminders. It becomes an automatic response to income. At that point, financial stability is no longer uncertain, but steadily built through consistent behavior. A savings plan is not about restriction. It is about protection. It protects future stability from present uncertainty. Through structure, consistency, and discipline, it creates a foundation that supports long-term financial security and reduces dependence on unpredictable circumstances. Chapter 9. Strengthen financial knowledge through continuous daily learning. Financial strength is not built only through earning, saving, or investing. It is built through understanding. Without knowledge, money is often handled through guesswork, habit, or influence from others. This creates inconsistency and limits growth. When financial knowledge expands, decisions become more deliberate and outcomes become more stable. Continuous daily learning becomes the foundation that supports every other financial habit. Many people treat financial knowledge as something fixed, something learned once and then applied forever. This approach creates stagnation. Financial systems, opportunities, and environments change over time. Without ongoing learning, decisions become outdated. Strengthening financial knowledge requires accepting that learning is not a one-time action but a continuous process. Daily learning does not require complex study or large amounts of time. It requires consistent exposure to useful information and reflection on how it applies to real life. Small, steady learning builds deeper understanding than occasional intense effort. The goal is not speed, but consistency. Financial ignorance often leads to repeated mistakes. Without knowledge, spending patterns remain unchanged, saving habits remain weak, and investment decisions become uncertain. Learning helps identify these patterns and correct them gradually. Awareness creates the ability to improve behavior with intention. A strong financial mindset begins with curiosity. Instead of avoiding financial topics, there must be a willingness to understand how money works in different contexts. This includes understanding income flow, expense structure, value creation, and long-term planning. Curiosity transforms financial learning from obligation into exploration. Continuous learning also builds confidence. When knowledge increases, hesitation decreases. Decisions become clearer because they are supported by understanding rather than assumption. This confidence reduces fear and improves consistency in financial behavior. One of the most important aspects of financial learning is applying knowledge immediately. Information alone has no value unless it influences action. Even small insights can lead to meaningful changes when applied consistently. Learning becomes powerful when it translates into behavior. Financial mistakes are often repeated because lessons are not fully absorbed. Without reflection, experience does not become knowledge. Daily learning should include reviewing past decisions and understanding what worked and what did not. This reflection turns experience into growth. Another important element is learning from multiple sources. Relying on a single perspective limits understanding. Exposure to different ideas helps build a more complete view of financial behavior. This diversity of learning strengthens decision-making ability. Financial knowledge also helps reduce emotional decisions. When understanding is strong, reactions are guided more by logic than impulse. This creates stability during uncertain situations. Knowledge acts as a stabilizing force when emotions fluctuate. Daily learning builds discipline in thinking. It trains the mind to observe financial situations carefully instead of reacting automatically. Over time, this habit becomes natural and influences all financial decisions. Awareness becomes sharper and more consistent. A lack of financial education often leads to dependency on external advice without understanding. While advice can be helpful, it should be understood before being applied. Learning ensures that decisions are not blindly followed, but thoughtfully considered. Continuous learning also reveals opportunities that were previously unnoticed. As understanding grows, new possibilities for earning, saving, and investing become clearer. Knowledge expands perception, and expanded perception leads to better decisions. It is important to approach learning with simplicity. Complex ideas are not always necessary. Even basic principles, when understood deeply, can have a strong impact. Consistent understanding of fundamentals is more valuable than superficial knowledge of advanced topics. Financial literacy also improves long-term planning. Without knowledge, future planning is often vague or unrealistic. With knowledge, planning becomes structured and achievable. Understanding how money behaves over time allows for more accurate preparation. Daily learning encourages responsibility. Instead of relying on chance or external systems, individuals take ownership of their financial understanding. This responsibility leads to more careful decision-making and reduced financial risk. Another key benefit is adaptability. Financial environments change due to economic conditions, personal circumstances, and global shifts. Continuous learning ensures that decisions remain relevant and adaptable to change. Flexibility becomes part of financial behavior. Knowledge also strengthens patience. When financial principles are understood, there is less pressure for immediate results. Understanding how growth develops over time helps maintain consistency even when progress feels slow. Learning should not be occasional or dependent on motivation. It must become a part of daily routine. Even small amounts of consistent learning build strong understanding over time. Repetition strengthens retention and deepens insight. Financial knowledge also improves communication with money itself. Decisions become clearer, priorities become defined, and goals become structured. Confusion is replaced with clarity. This clarity reduces stress and improves confidence in financial actions. Over time, continuous learning changes behavior naturally. Without forcing change, habits begin to shift based on understanding. Better decisions are made automatically because awareness has increased. This transformation is gradual but lasting. It is also important to remain open-minded during learning. Financial concepts may challenge existing beliefs. Instead of resisting new information, it should be evaluated objectively. Growth requires willingness to adjust thinking when necessary. Daily learning creates a long-term advantage. While others remain dependent on limited understanding, consistent learners develop deeper. This advantage compounds over time and leads to stronger financial outcomes. Knowledge also reduces the likelihood of repeating financial mistakes. When understanding is clear, past errors are less likely to occur again. This prevents loss and strengthens progress. Financial education is not limited to formal study. It can come from observation, experience, reflection, and practical application. Every financial situation becomes an opportunity to learn when approached with awareness. As financial knowledge grows, decision-making becomes more intentional. Choices are no longer random, but based on understanding of consequences and outcomes. This intentionality leads to better financial direction. Eventually, continuous learning becomes a habit rather than an effort. The mind naturally seeks understanding in every financial situation. At this stage, growth becomes ongoing because learning never stops. Financial strength is deeply connected to knowledge. Without understanding, money is unstable. With understanding, money becomes manageable and purposeful. Continuous daily learning ensures that financial behavior remains strong, informed, and adaptable over time. Chapter 10. Apply wealth principles in everyday life consistently. Wealth principles have no value if they remain only as ideas. Their true power appears only when they are practiced in daily life with consistency and discipline. Understanding financial concepts is not enough to create lasting change. Transformation happens when those concepts become behavior, repeated in ordinary moments, without exception or delay. Real wealth is not built in rare actions, but in consistent decisions made every day. Many people learn financial lessons, but fail to apply them beyond temporary motivation. They understand saving, investing, budgeting, and discipline, yet their daily actions remain unchanged. This gap between knowledge and behavior is where financial progress is lost. Applying wealth principles consistently closes that gap and turns understanding into results. Every financial principle is designed to guide behavior. Saving, spending control, investment thinking, and emotional discipline are not abstract ideas. They are instructions for how money should be handled in real situations. When these principles are applied only occasionally, they lose their strength. When they are applied consistently, they create structure that supports long-term stability. Consistency is the force that transforms principles into outcomes. A single correct action has limited impact, but repeated correct actions build momentum. Financial stability is not created by rare moments of discipline, but by ordinary days where decisions align with long-term goals. Over time, these small, consistent actions compound into meaningful results. Applying wealth principles in everyday life begins with awareness. Each financial decision, no matter how small, is an opportunity to practice discipline. Whether it is choosing to save, avoiding unnecessary spending, or planning before action, every moment becomes a test of consistency. When awareness is present, decisions become intentional rather than automatic. One of the most important aspects of application is simplicity. Wealth principles do not need to be complicated to be effective. In fact, simplicity makes them easier to follow consistently. Clear rules applied repeatedly create stronger results than complex strategies applied inconsistently. Simplicity ensures that behavior remains stable over time. Daily life presents constant financial choices. Some are small and easily overlooked, while others feel more significant. Both types matter equally because habits are built through repetition. Ignoring small decisions weakens discipline, while respecting them strengthens control. Consistency in small actions builds the foundation for larger financial success. Applying principles also requires alignment between intention and behavior. Many individuals intend to save, invest, or control spending, but their actions do not always reflect that intention. Consistency is achieved when behavior matches intention without frequent deviation. This alignment creates trust in one's own financial discipline. Wealth principles are most effective when they are applied without dependence on motivation. Motivation fluctuates, but consistency must remain stable. Daily financial behavior should not depend on how one feels in the moment. Instead, it should be guided by established principles that remain constant regardless of circumstances. Another important factor is discipline during repetition. It is easy to follow principles when conditions are favorable. The real test appears during difficulty, uncertainty, or temptation. Applying principles during these moments strengthens character and reinforces financial stability. Without consistency in difficult times, progress remains fragile. Wealth principles also require patience in application. Results are not always immediate. This delay often leads people to abandon disciplined behavior. However, financial growth is a gradual process. Consistency over time is what transforms small actions into meaningful outcomes. Patience ensures that discipline is maintained long enough for results to appear. Applying principles in everyday life also creates clarity. When financial behavior is guided by clear rules, decision-making becomes easier. There is less confusion about what to do in different situations because principles provide direction. This clarity reduces stress and increases confidence in financial choices. Another key aspect is self-accountability. Consistent application requires taking responsibility for every financial decision. Instead of blaming circumstances, attention shifts to personal behavior. This accountability strengthens discipline and encourages continuous improvement. Wealth principles also help create structure in unpredictable environments. Life circumstances change, but principles remain stable. This stability allows financial behavior to remain consistent even when external conditions shift. Structure provides security when uncertainty increases. Over time, consistent application leads to identity change. A person no longer simply practices financial discipline, but becomes someone who naturally behaves with financial awareness. This identity shift is powerful because it removes internal resistance. Actions become automatic rather than forced. Consistency also reduces financial mistakes. When principles are followed regularly, errors become less frequent. Even when mistakes occur, they are corrected more quickly because awareness is already strong. This reduces long-term damage and supports steady progress. Applying wealth principles also improves decision quality. Instead of reacting emotionally or impulsively, decisions are filtered through established guidelines. This leads to more stable outcomes and reduces regret. Better decisions consistently lead to better financial results. Another important benefit is resilience. Life includes financial challenges, but consistent application of principles builds strength to handle those challenges. Stability does not come from avoiding difficulty, but from being prepared to manage it effectively. Wealth principles also encourage long-term thinking. When applied consistently, attention naturally shifts from short-term satisfaction to future outcomes. This perspective helps prioritize actions that support lasting stability instead of temporary comfort. Discipline becomes easier over time through repetition. What initially requires effort eventually becomes natural behavior. The more consistently principles are applied, the less resistance is felt. Habits form, and financial discipline becomes part of daily routine. Applying wealth principles also reduces dependence on external guidance. Instead of constantly seeking advice, decisions are made based on internalized understanding. This independence strengthens confidence and creates self-reliance in financial matters. Eventually, consistent application leads to transformation in financial life. Stability increases, confusion decreases, and progress becomes steady. The impact of disciplined behavior compounds over time, creating results that are far greater than individual actions suggest. Financial success is not created by knowledge alone, nor by occasional effort. It is created by consistent application of proven principles in everyday life. When these principles become part of daily behavior, financial growth becomes a natural outcome rather than a distant goal. Chapter 11. Develop courage to start new income opportunities. New income opportunities rarely begin with comfort. They begin with uncertainty, with a decision to move before complete confidence arrives, and with the willingness to face the possibility of failure without letting that fear control the future. Many people stay trapped in financial struggle, not because they lack ability, but because they wait for perfect conditions before taking action. Perfect conditions do not usually appear. Growth begins when courage replaces hesitation. A person who wants a better financial life must learn to step beyond what is familiar. Familiar routines feel safe, but safety can also become a quiet trap. If every day looks the same and every income source stays the same, then financial progress remains limited to the same narrow path. Courage is what opens the door to something different. It allows a person to explore a new skill, offer a new service, or test an idea that could change the direction of life. Starting something new always brings a certain amount of discomfort. That discomfort is not a sign to stop. It is often the sign that growth is near. Many valuable opportunities are missed because they look difficult at first. The mind tends to protect itself by avoiding uncertainty, but protection without growth leads to stagnation. Courage does not remove uncertainty. It teaches a person to move through it with discipline. A new income opportunity does not need to begin with a large move. It can start with a small but deliberate step. Learning a useful skill, making one contact, offering help to one person, or testing one small service can be enough to begin. The problem is not usually the size of the first step. The problem is the decision to never take it. Courage changes that. It turns hesitation into action. Fear often speaks in convincing language. It says the timing is wrong. It says the idea is too risky. It says others are more experienced, more prepared, or more talented. These thoughts can feel real, but they are not always true. Many successful beginnings came from imperfect starts. Courage does not require certainty. It requires commitment to progress, even when certainty is missing. Starting a new income opportunity also requires humility. It is impossible to grow while pretending there is nothing new to learn. A humble mind is open to instruction, willing to improve, and ready to receive feedback. That openness creates room for development. Pride blocks progress because it refuses to begin where the truth of skill level currently is. Courage accepts the present without being limited by it. There is also a mental shift that must happen. Income does not always come from the same kind of work forever. A person can learn to create value in new ways, That belief matters because the mind must first accept possibility before the hands can build anything real. Without that belief, effort stays limited to the old path. With it, the imagination begins to search for solutions and opportunities in daily life. One of the strongest reasons people avoid new opportunities is fear of embarrassment. They do not want to look inexperienced. They do not want to make mistakes in public. They do not want to be rejected. Yet embarrassment is temporary, while inaction can last for years. A few uncomfortable moments are easier to endure than a lifetime of wondering what might have happened if action had been taken. A courageous person does not wait to feel ready. Readiness is often built through action, not before it. Skills sharpen through use. Confidence grows through repetition. Understanding deepens through experience. When someone begins a new opportunity, the first stage will often be awkward. That is normal. What matters is staying engaged long enough for competence to grow. Financial courage also means being willing to start without guarantees. Many people want proof before they move. They want certainty of success before they begin. But some opportunities only reveal their value after a person has already started. If every decision is delayed until certainty appears, very little will ever be done. Courage accepts that progress often begins with incomplete information. The path to new income often requires persistence because early results may be small. A first attempt may bring little return. A first conversation may lead nowhere. A first project may not succeed in the way hoped. That does not mean the effort was wasted. It means the foundation is being formed. Courage stays steady through early weakness and does not quit simply because the beginning is slow. Another important part of courage is the willingness to be seen trying. Growth becomes visible when a person starts acting differently. Others may not understand it, some may even discourage it. But dependence on approval can destroy progress before it begins. The person who wants new income must learn to trust the process more than outside opinion. External voices are not the ones responsible for future security. New income opportunities also demand discipline in learning. Courage is not reckless action. It is thoughtful movement supported by preparation. That means reading, observing, practicing, and adjusting. It means taking the first step while continuing to improve. Courage and learning work together. One creates motion, and the other creates strength. A practical way to build this courage is to stop thinking about the entire mountain and focus on the next action. The mind becomes overwhelmed when it tries to solve everything at once. Growth becomes possible when attention is narrowed to one honest step, one application, one conversation, one attempt, one decision. Repeated small steps create progress that feels manageable and real. It is also helpful to remember that every new source of income begins as a simple idea or a small effort. Nothing meaningful starts fully formed. It begins in a modest way and grows through commitment. That truth should encourage action because it shows that the beginning does not have to be perfect to be valuable. Courage changes the story of money. Instead of being limited by one path, a person begins to see many possible paths. Instead of waiting for life to improve on its own, a person starts building new channels of value. This shift brings energy and purpose. It also reduces dependence on a single source and creates greater financial resilience. The moment of decision is the real test. Thinking about change is easy. Acting on it requires character. That character is built when a person chooses movement over fear, effort over excuse, and growth over comfort. Each time that choice is made, courage becomes stronger. Starting new income opportunities is not only about money. It is about becoming the kind of person who can create solutions, adapt to change, and build a more stable future. That kind of life is not given. It is constructed through brave decisions repeated over time. Courage begins the process, and discipline sustains it. Chapter 12. Maintain discipline in paying debts on time. Debt is not only a financial obligation but also a reflection of discipline and responsibility. How a person manages debt reveals how they handle pressure, commitments, and long-term thinking. When debt payments are delayed or ignored, it creates a cycle of stress that grows over time. When debt is handled with discipline and consistency, it becomes a controlled responsibility rather than a burden that controls life. Maintaining discipline in paying debts on time is not only about avoiding penalties or interest. It is about building trust with oneself and creating a stable financial foundation. Every missed payment weakens structure, while every timely payment strengthens it. Financial stability depends on this consistency more than many people realize. Debt often creates emotional pressure. It can bring anxiety, avoidance, or even denial. Some people ignore debt because thinking about it feels uncomfortable. Others delay payments because immediate needs seem more urgent. However, avoiding debt does not reduce it. It only increases the long-term pressure. Discipline requires facing it directly and consistently. A structured approach is essential for managing debt effectively. Payments must be treated as non-negotiable commitments. Just like essential needs are prioritized in daily life, debt obligations must also be placed in a fixed position within financial planning. Without structure, debt becomes unpredictable and harder to manage. Timeliness is one of the most important aspects of discipline. Paying on time prevents additional charges and protects financial reputation. More importantly, it creates a pattern of reliability. When payments are consistently made on schedule, financial control becomes stronger and more stable over time. Many individuals struggle with debt because they treat it as secondary to spending decisions. Expenses are handled first and debt is addressed later. This reversed priority creates imbalance. When debt is given lower priority, it grows silently in the background, creating pressure that eventually becomes harder to manage. A disciplined mindset views debt as an immediate responsibility, not a flexible option. This means planning ahead so that payments are ready when due dates arrive. Waiting until the last moment increases the risk of delay. Preparation ensures that obligations are met without stress or disruption. Awareness plays a key role in maintaining discipline. Many missed payments occur simply because due dates are not clearly tracked. Keeping clear records of all obligations creates visibility. When debt schedules are visible, it becomes easier to plan and prioritize them effectively. Another important factor is separating debt payments from discretionary spending. When all money is treated as available for general use, debt obligations can easily be ignored or delayed. By isolating funds for debt repayment early, financial behavior becomes more controlled and predictable. Consistency builds financial credibility. Every timely payment strengthens trust with lenders and improves overall financial standing. This credibility can become valuable in future financial decisions. Discipline today creates flexibility tomorrow. Emotional control is also necessary when managing debt. Stress can lead to avoidance, and avoidance leads to delay. Discipline requires staying calm and addressing obligations directly rather than reacting emotionally. Financial stability improves when decisions are guided by structure rather than emotional discomfort. A strong habit to develop is planning debt payments immediately when income is received. Before any other spending decisions are made, obligations should be identified and allocated. This ensures that repayment is not dependent on what remains, but is already secured in advance. Neglecting debt obligations can create a cycle that becomes increasingly difficult to break. Late payments lead to additional charges, which increase total burden, which creates more stress, which then leads to further delay. Discipline interrupts this cycle at its starting point. Handling debt responsibly also builds inner confidence. When obligations are consistently met, there is a sense of control over financial life. This confidence reduces fear and creates stability even during challenging periods. Knowing that commitments are being honored provides mental clarity. It is important to understand that discipline in debt repayment is not about perfection, but consistency. Occasional difficulties may occur, but the goal is to maintain overall reliability. Even during difficult financial periods, Effort should be made to meet obligations in some structured form, rather than abandoning them completely. Prioritization is essential. Not all expenses hold the same importance as debt obligations. Recognizing this hierarchy ensures that critical responsibilities are addressed first. Without prioritization, financial decisions become scattered and unstable. Over time, disciplined repayment improves financial flexibility. As debts reduce, pressure decreases, and available resources increase. This creates space for savings, investment, and growth. Discipline in the present creates freedom in the future. Another key aspect is avoiding unnecessary new debt while managing existing obligations. Adding new financial pressure while struggling with current commitments weakens stability. Responsible financial behavior involves controlling both repayment and borrowing simultaneously. Accountability strengthens discipline. Taking ownership of debt means accepting responsibility without shifting blame. This mindset encourages careful planning and consistent action. Responsibility is the foundation of financial maturity. Eventually, disciplined repayment becomes a habit rather than a forced action. It becomes part of how financial life is managed naturally. At that stage, debt is no longer a source of anxiety, but a structured obligation that is handled with consistency. Financial strength is not only measured by income or savings, but also by how well commitments are honored. Maintaining discipline in paying debts on time builds stability, trust, and long-term control over financial life. Chapter 13. Avoid impulsive purchases that weaken financial stability. Impulsive purchases are one of the quiet forces that slowly weaken financial stability without immediate warning. They do not always appear as large or serious decisions. Often they begin as small choices made in a moment of emotion, convenience, or desire. Over time, these small decisions accumulate and create a pattern that reduces control over money and limits long-term progress. Avoiding impulsive purchases is not about removing enjoyment from life. It is about ensuring that decisions involving money are guided by awareness rather than reaction. When spending is driven by impulse, it disconnects from planning and purpose. This creates imbalance, where money leaves faster than it can be structured or protected. Impulsive behavior often begins in moments of emotional influence. Stress, excitement, boredom, or even celebration can shift attention away from long-term thinking. In these moments, the mind focuses on immediate satisfaction rather than future consequences. Learning to recognize these emotional states is the first step in reducing impulsive financial behavior. A key principle in controlling impulsive purchases is introducing delay. Immediate action is where most unnecessary spending occurs. When a decision is postponed, even briefly, emotional intensity begins to reduce. With time, the urgency fades and clarity returns. Many purchases that feel necessary in the moment lose importance after reflection. Another important aspect is awareness of triggers. Certain environments, advertisements, or situations can increase the likelihood of impulsive decisions. When these triggers are understood, it becomes easier to prepare for them. Awareness reduces vulnerability and allows more controlled responses. Financial stability depends on intention. Every purchase should have a clear reason connected to need or planned value. When purchases are made without intention, they weaken structure and create imbalance in financial planning. Intentional spending strengthens control, while impulsive spending reduces it. A disciplined financial approach involves evaluating consequences before making decisions. Impulsive purchases often focus only on immediate satisfaction. However, every financial decision has long-term effects. Even small expenses, when repeated frequently, can significantly reduce available resources for more important goals. Self-control is developed through repetition. Each time an impulsive decision is avoided, discipline becomes stronger. This strengthens the ability to pause and think before acting. Over time, this behavior becomes natural and requires less conscious effort. Another important factor is separating needs from wants. Needs are essential for daily stability, while wants are often driven by emotion or desire. Without this distinction, it becomes easy to justify unnecessary spending. Clear understanding of this difference supports better financial decisions. Impulsive purchases often create temporary satisfaction but long-term regret. The satisfaction fades quickly, but the financial impact remains. Recognizing this pattern helps reduce the power of impulse over time. Awareness of this cycle strengthens resistance to unnecessary spending. Budgeting also plays a role in controlling impulsive behavior. When financial limits are defined in advance, spending decisions become more structured. Without limits, spending expands naturally and impulsively. Structure creates boundaries that guide behavior and reduce unnecessary decisions. Another useful practice is focusing on long-term goals before making any purchase. When attention is directed toward future financial stability, short-term desires lose influence. This shift in perspective helps align decisions with long-term priorities instead of temporary emotion. Avoiding impulsive purchases also requires reducing exposure to unnecessary temptation. Constant exposure to offers, promotions, or comparisons can increase the likelihood of emotional spending. Simplifying exposure helps maintain clarity and reduces pressure to act without thinking. Financial discipline is strengthened when spending decisions are made in a calm state of mind. When the mind is stable, decisions are more logical and aligned with goals. Impulsive decisions usually occur when the mind is distracted or emotionally active. Creating space for decisions supports better outcomes. Over time, avoiding impulsive purchases builds financial confidence. When control over spending increases, trust in personal financial decisions also increases. This confidence reduces anxiety and creates a sense of stability in handling money. It is important to understand that discipline does not require perfection. Occasional mistakes may occur, but what matters is overall direction. The goal is to reduce frequency of impulsive decisions and strengthen awareness over time. Progress is built through consistency, not sudden change. Impulse control also improves overall decision-making beyond financial matters. The ability to pause before acting becomes a general skill that supports better choices in different areas of life. Financial discipline often strengthens mental discipline as well. Another important aspect is recognizing that money lost through impulsive spending cannot be recovered easily. Once spent, it is gone and cannot be redirected toward more meaningful goals. This awareness increases respect for financial decisions and encourages more thoughtful behavior. As awareness grows, spending becomes more intentional. Each decision is evaluated based on necessity and long-term value. This reduces unnecessary expenses and improves overall financial structure. Controlled spending leads to stronger savings and better financial stability. Eventually, impulsive behavior loses its influence. Decisions become calmer, more deliberate, and aligned with long-term goals. Spending no longer feels automatic, but becomes a conscious choice guided by awareness and discipline. Avoiding impulsive purchases is not only about saving money. It is about building control over decisions, strengthening discipline, and creating stability. When spending is guided by intention instead of impulse, financial life becomes more secure, balanced, and predictable over time. Chapter 14. Build emergency fund for unexpected life situations. Financial stability is not only measured by how much money is earned or saved, but also by how prepared a person is when life becomes uncertain. Unexpected situations appear without warning. They can disrupt income, increase expenses, or create pressure that demands immediate financial response. Without preparation, these moments become stressful and difficult to manage. An emergency fund is the structure that protects stability during these times. An emergency fund is not created for planned goals or optional spending. It exists for situations that cannot be predicted. This includes sudden loss of income, urgent repairs, medical needs, or any situation that requires immediate financial support. When this fund is in place, pressure from unexpected events becomes manageable instead of overwhelming. Building an emergency fund begins with understanding that uncertainty is part of life. No financial situation remains completely stable forever. Even strong income sources can change. Even careful planning cannot prevent every challenge. Accepting this reality is the first step toward preparation. Without acceptance, preparation is often delayed or ignored. The purpose of an emergency fund is protection. It creates distance between unexpected problems and daily financial structure. Instead of disrupting essential needs or long-term goals, emergencies are handled through a separate reserve. This separation is what maintains stability during difficult periods. A strong emergency fund is built gradually over time. It does not require large amounts at once. What matters most is consistency. Small contributions made regularly create a foundation that grows steadily. This process requires patience because the goal is not immediate use but long-term readiness. Discipline plays a key role in building this reserve. It is easy to postpone saving for emergencies because they do not appear immediately. However, delay weakens preparedness. Consistent allocation ensures that the fund grows regardless of whether emergencies occur or not. Preparation must always come before need. An important principle is separating emergency funds from regular savings. When all funds are mixed, it becomes difficult to maintain boundaries. Clear separation ensures that emergency reserves remain untouched unless truly needed. This protection preserves the purpose of the fund. The strength of an emergency fund is measured not only by its size, but by its availability during critical moments. If funds are easily accessible and properly preserved, they serve their purpose effectively. Accessibility combined with discipline creates reliability. One of the main reasons people struggle during emergencies is lack of planning during stable periods. When everything is going well, financial preparation is often ignored. However, stability is the best time to build protection. Waiting for problems to appear before preparing leads to unnecessary stress. An emergency fund also reduces emotional pressure. Unexpected situations often trigger fear and confusion. When there is no financial backup, decisions are made under stress. Having a reserve in place provides calmness and clarity during these moments. It allows time to think instead of reacting impulsively. Consistency in building this fund is more important than speed. Even small regular contributions create meaningful progress over time. The habit of saving for emergencies builds financial discipline that supports other areas of financial life as well. Another important aspect is resisting the temptation to use emergency funds for non-urgent needs. Without clear boundaries, this reserve can slowly disappear. Discipline ensures that it remains reserved for situations that truly require it. Protecting this fund is essential to maintaining its purpose. An emergency fund also strengthens independence. Instead of relying on external help during difficult situations, there is internal preparation. This reduces dependence on loans or urgent borrowing, which often creates additional financial pressure. Over time, the presence of an emergency fund changes financial behavior. Decisions become less fearful because there is a backup in place. This sense of security allows better planning and more confident financial choices. Building this fund requires prioritization. It must be treated as an essential part of financial structure, not an optional one. When prioritized properly, it becomes a consistent part of financial planning rather than something postponed repeatedly. Unexpected situations are not rare. They are part of life's natural uncertainty. Preparing for them does not mean expecting failure. It means building resilience. Financial resilience ensures that stability is maintained even when conditions change suddenly. An emergency fund also protects long-term goals. Without it, unexpected expenses often force withdrawal from savings or disruption of investment plans. With it, long-term progress remains uninterrupted. This protection is one of its most valuable functions. Another important benefit is reduced stress. Financial uncertainty is one of the main sources of anxiety during emergencies. Knowing that a reserve exists creates mental stability. This stability allows better decision-making during critical moments. The process of building this fund also develops patience. Since growth is gradual, it teaches the importance of long-term thinking. Immediate results are not the focus. Instead, steady progress builds a strong foundation over time. Discipline must remain consistent even when the fund starts growing. It is easy to become less focused once some amount is accumulated. However, true strength comes from maintaining the habit until the fund reaches a level that can handle real emergencies comfortably. An emergency fund also improves overall financial awareness. It encourages better planning, more careful spending, and stronger saving habits. It acts as a foundation that supports other financial decisions. Eventually, building an emergency fund becomes a natural part of financial behavior. It no longer feels like an extra task, but an essential step in managing income. At this stage, financial life becomes more structured and prepared. Financial stability is not only about growth but also about protection. Building an emergency fund ensures that unexpected challenges do not disrupt long-term progress. It creates security, reduces stress, and strengthens financial resilience over time. Chapter 15. Seek wise advice from experienced financial mentors. Financial growth is rarely achieved in isolation. Every stage of progress becomes easier when guided by someone who has already experienced the path ahead. Seeking wise advice from experienced financial mentors is not about dependence, but about shortening the distance between mistakes and understanding. A mentor provides perspective that cannot be easily gained through personal trial alone. Many financial struggles come from repeated errors that could be avoided with proper guidance. Without direction, individuals often learn through costly experiences. While experience is valuable, unnecessary mistakes slow down progress and create avoidable setbacks. Learning from someone who has already faced similar challenges helps reduce these delays and improves decision-making. A financial mentor is not simply someone with more money. True mentorship comes from experience, discipline, and understanding of financial behavior over time. Such individuals have often faced uncertainty, made mistakes, corrected them, and developed systems that lead to stability. Their insight carries practical value because it is grounded in real outcomes rather than theory alone. Seeking advice requires humility. It involves recognizing that personal knowledge is not always enough to handle every situation. This does not reduce self-confidence. Instead, it strengthens decision-making by adding external perspective. A person who is willing to learn from others grows faster than one who insists on learning everything independently. One of the main benefits of mentorship is clarity. Financial decisions often appear confusing when viewed alone. Different options create uncertainty and hesitation. A mentor helps simplify these choices by offering direction based on experience. This clarity reduces confusion and supports more stable financial actions. Another important aspect is perspective. When faced with financial challenges, it is easy to become emotionally involved. Fear, pressure, or frustration can influence judgment. A mentor provides an outside viewpoint that is not affected by emotional attachment. This balanced perspective helps restore rational thinking. Guidance from experienced individuals also helps identify blind spots. Many financial mistakes occur because certain risks or patterns are not visible from a limited point of view. A mentor can highlight these gaps and provide suggestions to avoid unnecessary losses. This awareness strengthens overall financial awareness. Seeking advice is not about blindly following instructions. It involves listening, evaluating, and applying knowledge in a way that fits personal circumstances. True learning happens when advice is understood deeply and adapted thoughtfully. Blind imitation does not lead to long-term stability. Consistency in learning from mentors is also important. Occasional advice has limited impact. Continuous engagement allows for ongoing improvement and better understanding of financial patterns. Over time, repeated guidance builds stronger decision-making ability. A mentor also encourages accountability. When someone experienced is aware of financial goals and actions, there is a greater sense of responsibility to maintain discipline. This accountability supports consistency and reduces careless behavior. Another benefit of mentorship is exposure to long-term thinking. Many individuals focus only on immediate financial needs. Experienced mentors often emphasize patience and structured planning. This shift in thinking helps build stability that extends beyond short-term gains. It is also important to choose mentors wisely. Not every source of advice is reliable. Some guidance may be based on opinion rather than experience. Careful selection ensures that the information received is practical, tested, and relevant. Quality of guidance matters more than quantity. Learning from mentors also helps reduce emotional decision-making. Financial choices influenced by stress or excitement often lead to poor outcomes. Mentors encourage a calmer approach based on logic and structure. This helps create stability during uncertain situations. Another key advantage is acceleration of learning. Mistakes that might take years to understand independently can be avoided through shared experience. This significantly shortens the learning curve and improves financial progress. Mentorship also builds confidence. When decisions are supported by experienced insight, there is less doubt in execution. This confidence allows for more consistent action and reduces hesitation in important financial choices. Over time, exposure to wise advice helps shape financial behavior. Habits become more disciplined. Thinking becomes more structured and decisions become more intentional. This transformation happens gradually through repeated learning and application. It is important to remain open to correction during mentorship. Growth requires willingness to adjust behavior when necessary. Resistance to feedback limits improvement, while acceptance of guidance strengthens development. A strong mentor does not remove responsibility but enhances understanding. Final decisions still belong to the individual, but those decisions are better informed. This balance ensures independence while benefiting from external wisdom. Financial mentorship also encourages reflection. Reviewing past decisions with guidance helps identify patterns and improve future behavior. This reflection strengthens awareness and prevents repeated mistakes. As learning continues, individuals begin to internalize principles shared by mentors. Over time, external advice transforms into internal discipline. At this stage, decision-making becomes more independent while still aligned with learned wisdom. Seeking wise advice is not a sign of weakness, but a strategy for growth. It acknowledges that knowledge expands faster when shared. Financial success becomes more stable when guided by those who understand its challenges deeply. Eventually, mentorship influences not only financial behavior but overall thinking. Decision-making becomes more thoughtful, disciplined, and future-focused. This shift creates a stronger foundation for long-term financial stability and continuous improvement. Chapter 16. Track all expenses to understand money flow. Financial control begins with awareness. Without knowing where money goes, it becomes impossible to manage it effectively. Many people focus only on income, but overlook the importance of tracking expenses. This creates a situation where money seems to disappear without clear explanation. Tracking all expenses is the process that brings clarity to financial behavior and reveals the true pattern of money flow. Every financial decision leaves a trace. Whether it is a small daily purchase or a larger planned expense, each action contributes to the overall structure of personal finance. When these actions are not recorded or observed, patterns remain hidden. Without visibility, improvement becomes difficult because the root cause of financial imbalance cannot be identified. Tracking expenses is not about restriction, it is about understanding. It provides a clear picture of how income is being used in reality, not just in assumption. Many individuals believe they are spending carefully until they begin tracking every transaction. At that point, unnoticed habits become visible and areas of improvement become clear. A lack of awareness often leads to financial confusion. People may feel that income is insufficient even when it is adequate. This perception arises when spending is not fully understood. Tracking removes guesswork and replaces it with factual information. When money flow is visible, decisions become more informed and intentional. The first step in tracking expenses is consistency. Every transaction must be recorded without exception. Small expenses are often ignored because they seem insignificant, but repeated small amounts accumulate into large totals over time. Ignoring them creates gaps in understanding that distort the overall financial picture. Tracking also builds discipline. When spending is recorded regularly, there is greater awareness before making new purchases. This awareness naturally encourages more thoughtful decisions. It creates a pause between intention and action, which helps reduce unnecessary spending. Another important benefit is clarity. When expenses are tracked over time, patterns begin to emerge. It becomes clear where money is consistently used and which areas consume more resources than expected. This clarity allows for better financial planning and adjustments where needed. Without tracking, financial decisions are based on assumption. With tracking, decisions are based on evidence. This shift from assumption to evidence strengthens financial control. It removes uncertainty and allows for more accurate planning of future expenses. Tracking expenses also helps identify wasteful spending. Many small purchases do not provide long-term value, but still reduce available resources. When these patterns are visible, it becomes easier to reduce or eliminate them. Awareness leads to better prioritization of financial choices. Another key aspect is accountability. When every expense is recorded, there is a sense of responsibility for each financial decision. This accountability discourages impulsive behavior and encourages more intentional spending habits. Tracking also improves budgeting. A budget without understanding actual spending behavior is incomplete. Expense tracking provides the data needed to create realistic financial plans. It ensures that budgets are based on actual behavior rather than estimates. Over time, tracking expenses creates a deeper understanding of personal financial habits. It reveals not only where money goes, but also why it goes there. This understanding helps identify emotional or habitual patterns that influence spending decisions. Financial awareness grows through repetition. The more consistently expenses are tracked, the clearer the financial picture becomes. This consistency builds a strong foundation for long-term financial improvement. Another important benefit is reduced financial stress. Uncertainty about money often creates anxiety. When expenses are clearly recorded and understood, this uncertainty decreases. Knowing where money is going creates a sense of control and stability. Tracking expenses also supports goal alignment. When financial goals are set, tracking ensures that spending behavior is aligned with those goals. It helps identify whether actions are supporting or opposing long-term objectives. A common mistake is tracking expenses only temporarily. Short-term tracking may provide insight, but lasting change requires ongoing consistency. Financial habits develop over time, and continuous tracking ensures that awareness remains active. Another important aspect is simplicity. Tracking does not need to be complicated. The goal is clarity, not complexity. Even simple recording methods can provide valuable insight when used consistently. What matters most is regular practice. Expense tracking also helps improve decision-making. When past spending is visible, it becomes easier to evaluate future choices. This reduces repeated mistakes and supports better financial judgment. Over time, tracking creates behavioral change. When individuals become aware of their spending patterns, they naturally begin to adjust them. This change is not forced but develops through understanding. Financial discipline strengthens as awareness increases. When money flow is clearly understood, there is greater control over how it is used. This control leads to more stable financial outcomes. Tracking expenses also builds patience. It encourages observation before action. Instead of reacting impulsively, decisions are made after understanding existing patterns. This shift improves long-term financial behavior. Eventually, expense tracking becomes a natural habit. It no longer feels like an additional task but becomes part of financial routine. At that stage, financial awareness remains constant, and decisions are consistently informed. Understanding money flow is essential for financial stability. Without tracking, money moves without direction. With tracking, every movement becomes visible and understandable. This awareness is the foundation for stronger financial control, better decision-making, and long-term financial improvement. Chapter 17. Increase earning skills through constant self-improvement. Earning capacity is not fixed. It is shaped and expanded through continuous development of skills and understanding. Many people limit their income potential because they remain at the same level of ability for long periods. When skills do not grow, opportunities also remain limited. Increasing earning skills through constant self-improvement is the process that expands financial potential over time. Self-improvement is not a temporary effort. It is a continuous process of refining abilities, learning new skills, and strengthening existing strengths. Without this process, progress slows down regardless of effort. Income grows when value increases, and value increases when skills improve. Many individuals focus only on working harder instead of becoming more capable. Hard work alone has limits, but improved skill multiplies results. When a person becomes more skilled, the same effort produces greater output. This is how earning capacity expands without unnecessary exhaustion. Constant self-improvement begins with awareness of current ability. Understanding strengths and weaknesses provides direction for growth. Without this awareness, improvement becomes random and less effective. Clear recognition of where improvement is needed creates focus. Learning is a core part of increasing earning skills. Every new skill adds another layer of value that can be offered in exchange for income. These skills can relate to communication, technical ability, problem solving, or any area that increases usefulness. The more useful a person becomes, the more opportunities they can access. Self-improvement also requires consistency. Occasional learning does not create lasting change. Skills develop through repetition and practice over time. Daily or regular effort builds stronger capability than irregular bursts of activity. Another important aspect is adaptability. The world changes continuously, and earning opportunities also evolve. Individuals who adapt by learning new methods and improving existing skills remain relevant. Without adaptability, skills become outdated and earning potential declines. Self-improvement also strengthens confidence. When skills improve, confidence in handling tasks and challenges increases. This confidence leads to better performance, which in turn creates more opportunities for income growth. Skill and confidence reinforce each other over time. It is important to focus on practical improvement rather than just theoretical knowledge. Knowledge alone does not increase earning potential unless it is applied. Application transforms learning into value. Real growth happens when skills are used in real situations. Another key principle is deliberate practice. Improvement is not accidental. It requires focused effort on specific areas that need development. By repeatedly working on weak points, performance gradually becomes stronger and more efficient. Self-improvement also involves learning from experience. Every task completed and every challenge faced provides insight. Reflection on these experiences helps identify areas that need further improvement. This continuous feedback loop strengthens development. Avoiding stagnation is essential for financial growth. When learning stops, earning potential also stops expanding. Continuous improvement ensures that skills remain active, relevant, and valuable in changing conditions. Discipline plays a major role in maintaining self-improvement. It requires commitment even when progress feels slow. Improvement is often gradual, and results may not appear immediately. Persistence ensures that long-term growth is achieved. Another important factor is curiosity. A curious mindset naturally seeks better methods, new information, and improved understanding. This mindset encourages continuous learning and prevents complacency. Increasing earning skills also requires openness to change. Old methods may need to be replaced with better approaches. Resistance to change limits growth, while acceptance of new methods increases potential. Over time, constant self-improvement creates compounding effects. Small improvements in skills gradually build into significant increases in earning ability. This compounding effect becomes more powerful as time continues. Self-improvement also improves problem-solving ability. Stronger skills allow better handling of challenges, which increases reliability and value in any role or opportunity. This reliability often leads to higher income potential. Another benefit is independence. As skills improve, dependence on limited income sources decreases. New opportunities become accessible because capability expands beyond current limitations. Consistency in self-improvement also strengthens discipline in other areas of life. The habit of regular learning and growth influences financial behavior, decision-making, and personal responsibility. Eventually, self-improvement becomes part of identity. It is no longer something done occasionally, but becomes a natural way of living. Growth becomes continuous rather than occasional. Financial success is closely connected to ability. When ability increases, earning opportunities expand naturally. Constant self-improvement ensures that ability does not remain stagnant, but continues to grow over time. The process requires patience, discipline, and commitment. Results may not appear instantly, but long-term improvement leads to meaningful progress. Every small improvement contributes to greater earning potential. Increasing earning skills through constant self-improvement is not only about income, it is about building long-term capability, adaptability, and value. These qualities create a foundation for sustainable financial growth and continuous opportunity. Chapter 18. Reinforce patience while building long-term wealth. Building long-term wealth is not a process driven by speed. It is shaped by consistency, time, and steady discipline applied over years. Many people struggle financially not because they lack opportunity, but because they lose patience before results have time to develop. Wealth grows slowly at first, and this slow beginning often tests commitment more than anything else. Reinforcing patience becomes essential for anyone who wants lasting financial strength. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active discipline during periods where visible progress feels minimal. During these periods, it is easy to question decisions or abandon systems that require time to work. However, financial growth does not respond to urgency. It responds to structure maintained over long durations. Without patience, even good financial habits collapse before they produce meaningful outcomes. One of the main challenges in building wealth is the expectation of quick results. When effort does not immediately translate into visible success, frustration begins to grow. This frustration often leads to inconsistent behavior. People start changing strategies too early or abandoning systems before they have had enough time to function properly. Patience prevents this instability. Wealth building works through accumulation. Small actions repeated over long periods create results that cannot be seen in short intervals. Just like a structure is built brick by brick, financial strength is built through repeated disciplined decisions. The early stages may appear insignificant, but they form the foundation of future stability. Reinforcing patience begins with understanding time as an essential component of financial growth. Money does not multiply instantly through responsible behavior alone. It requires duration. Investments, savings, and disciplined habits need time to develop their full effect. Without acceptance of this principle, financial decisions become rushed and inconsistent. Another important aspect of patience is emotional control during slow progress. There will be moments where effort seems disconnected from results. During these moments, impatience can lead to poor decisions. Emotional reactions such as frustration or doubt can disrupt long-term plans. Maintaining stability during these phases is crucial. Patience also protects against unnecessary changes in direction. Constantly switching financial strategies prevents deep progress. Each system requires time to show results. When changes are made too frequently, progress resets repeatedly. Patience allows systems to mature and produce their intended outcomes. Long-term wealth requires trust in process rather than immediate evidence. This trust is built through understanding that financial growth often becomes visible only after sustained effort. Early stages are focused on preparation rather than reward. Without patience, this preparation stage feels unproductive, even though it is essential. Another important element is resisting comparison. Observing others who appear to progress faster can create impatience. However, financial timelines differ for every individual. Comparing progress often leads to unnecessary pressure and poor decisions. Patience helps maintain focus on personal growth rather than external timelines. Discipline and patience work together. Discipline ensures consistent action, while patience ensures continued commitment over time. Without patience, discipline weakens because effort stops prematurely. Without discipline, patience becomes passive. Both are necessary for long-term financial success. Reinforcing patience also requires acceptance of delayed rewards. Many financial systems are designed to produce benefits in the future rather than immediately. Understanding this structure helps maintain motivation during slow phases. The value of present effort is realized later, not instantly. Another important factor is maintaining perspective. Short-term fluctuations in financial progress should not be mistaken for failure. Temporary setbacks are part of long-term growth. Patience allows these fluctuations to be viewed as normal rather than discouraging. Building wealth also involves periods of uncertainty. During these times, patience prevents emotional decisions that could damage long-term stability. Instead of reacting impulsively, steady behavior ensures that progress continues even when outcomes are not immediately visible. Over time, patience becomes a form of strength. It allows individuals to remain consistent while others give up early. This consistency creates advantage because long-term results depend heavily on duration of effort. Those who remain patient often achieve outcomes that others do not reach. Another benefit of patience is reduced financial stress. When expectations are aligned with long-term reality, there is less pressure for immediate success. This creates mental stability and improves decision-making. Calm thinking supports better financial behavior. Patience also improves planning. When long-term thinking is prioritized, decisions are made with greater care. Instead of focusing on immediate satisfaction, attention shifts toward future outcomes. This leads to more stable financial structures. Reinforcing patience requires continuous reminder that wealth is built over time, not overnight. Every financial habit, whether saving, investing, or learning, requires duration to show results. Accepting this truth reduces frustration and increases consistency. Eventually, patience transforms financial behavior. Decisions become less reactive and more stable. There is greater confidence in long-term systems and less dependence on immediate results. This stability supports continuous progress. Long-term wealth is not a product of speed, but of endurance. Reinforcing patience ensures that effort is not abandoned too early, and that financial systems are allowed to grow fully. Through consistent patience, financial stability becomes stronger, more reliable, and more sustainable over time. Chapter 19. Set clear financial goals for future direction. Financial progress without direction often leads to confusion and inconsistency. When there is no clear target, decisions become reactive instead of intentional. Money is earned, spent, and saved without a structured purpose, which weakens long-term stability. Setting clear financial goals provides direction and transforms financial behavior into a focused and purposeful process. A financial goal is more than a simple desire. It is a defined outcome that guides decisions over time. Without clarity, financial actions lack alignment. People may work hard and still feel stuck because their efforts are not directed toward a specific result. Clear goals give structure to effort and meaning to financial discipline. The importance of setting financial goals begins with understanding direction. When a destination is known, every financial decision can be evaluated based on whether it supports that destination or not. This creates awareness in spending, saving, and investing behavior. Without direction, decisions become random and less effective. Clarity in goals reduces uncertainty. Many financial struggles come from not knowing what is being worked toward. When goals are unclear, it becomes easy to lose motivation or abandon discipline. Clear goals provide a stable reference point that helps maintain focus during challenges. Financial goals also help prioritize actions. Not every financial opportunity or expense deserves equal attention. When goals are defined, it becomes easier to distinguish what is important from what is unnecessary. This prioritization improves financial efficiency and reduces waste. Another important aspect is structure. Clear goals allow financial planning to become organized. Income can be allocated intentionally instead of being distributed randomly. This structure ensures that every financial action contributes toward long-term progress. Setting goals also strengthens discipline. When there is a clear target, it becomes easier to resist distractions. Spending decisions are evaluated more carefully because they are measured against defined outcomes. This improves consistency in financial behavior. Financial goals should be realistic and meaningful. Unrealistic expectations often lead to frustration and loss of motivation. Clear goals are achievable within a structured timeline. This balance between ambition and realism supports steady progress. Another key benefit of financial goals is motivation. When progress is visible, motivation increases naturally. Seeing movement toward a defined target reinforces discipline and encourages continued effort. Without goals, progress is difficult to measure, which reduces motivation. Goals also help track improvement. Without defined targets, it is difficult to measure whether financial behavior is improving or not. Clear goals provide benchmarks that make progress visible and measurable. This visibility strengthens awareness and control. Long-term financial stability requires direction. Without it, financial decisions become short-term focused and inconsistent. Clear goals shift attention toward future outcomes and encourage decisions that support long-term success. Another important aspect is decision-making. When financial goals are clearly defined, decisions become easier. Each choice can be evaluated based on whether it contributes to or distracts from the goal. This reduces confusion and improves consistency. Financial goals also reduce emotional decision-making. Without direction, financial choices are often influenced by mood or impulse. With clear goals, decisions are guided by structure rather than emotion. This creates more stable financial behavior. Writing down financial goals strengthens commitment. When goals remain only in thought, they are easier to forget or ignore. Written goals create accountability and reinforce focus. This simple action increases seriousness toward financial planning. Another important factor is breaking large goals into smaller steps. Large financial objectives can feel overwhelming if viewed as a whole. Dividing them into smaller, manageable actions makes progress easier and more consistent. Each small step contributes to the larger goal. Clear goals also improve time management. When financial direction is defined, effort can be organized more efficiently. Time and energy are directed toward actions that produce meaningful results instead of scattered efforts. Financial goals also create discipline in spending habits. When there is a clear objective, unnecessary spending becomes easier to identify and avoid. Every expense is evaluated based on its impact on long-term goals. Over time, setting clear financial goals builds stronger financial awareness. Decisions become more intentional and aligned with long-term vision. This awareness improves consistency and reduces financial mistakes. Goals also help maintain focus during difficult periods. Financial challenges can create uncertainty, but clear goals provide stability. They act as reminders of long-term direction, even when short-term conditions are difficult. Another benefit is accountability. When goals are clearly defined, it becomes easier to evaluate whether actions are aligned with intentions. This accountability strengthens discipline and encourages continuous improvement. Clear financial goals also support confidence. When direction is known, decisions feel more certain. This reduces hesitation and builds trust in financial planning. Confidence grows as progress becomes visible. Over time, financial goals evolve. As progress is made, goals can be adjusted or expanded. This flexibility allows continuous growth while maintaining structure and direction. Ultimately, setting clear financial goals transforms financial life from random activity into structured progress. It creates direction, improves discipline, and strengthens long-term stability. With clear goals, financial decisions become purposeful, consistent, and aligned with future success. Chapter 20. Stay consistent with daily habits of saving. Consistency is what turns saving from an idea into a real financial strength. Many people understand the value of saving, yet they struggle to keep doing it every day. They save when it feels easy, stop when life feels tight, and start again when motivation returns. That cycle creates instability. Real progress comes when saving is treated as a daily habit rather than an occasional action. A saving habit works best when it becomes part of normal life. It should not depend on mood, excitement, or perfect conditions. It should be handled the same way a person handles basic responsibilities. When saving becomes automatic, financial life becomes more stable. The mind no longer has to debate whether to save. The decision has already been made through habit. Daily saving may seem small at first, but small actions repeated over time create strong results. A little placed aside today becomes a foundation for tomorrow. The value of saving is not only in the amount collected, but in the discipline built through repetition. Every day that saving happens on purpose strengthens control over money and reduces the power of impulse. One of the biggest reasons people fail to save consistently is that they wait for extra money. They believe saving can begin only after bills are paid and desires are satisfied. That approach leaves very little room for progress. A stronger mindset begins by treating saving as a fixed part of the day, not as an optional leftover. When saving is built into the routine, it stops depending on chance. Consistency also protects against emotional spending. Some days feel easier than others. Some days bring stress and some bring excitement. These shifts can make money decisions unstable. A daily saving habit creates a steady line through those changing moods. It gives structure when emotions would otherwise pull decisions in different directions. The habit of saving every day teaches patience. It shows that financial strength does not appear all at once. It grows through quiet repetition. This kind of progress is easy to overlook because it does not always feel dramatic. Still, it is often the most reliable path to long-term stability. Daily effort creates a rhythm that supports future confidence. Saving consistently also builds trust in personal discipline. Each time money is set aside, it sends a clear message that future needs matter. That message becomes part of identity over time. A person no longer sees saving as a burden, but as a natural part of responsible living. This shift is powerful because it changes behavior from the inside. Many people lose progress because they treat saving like a temporary challenge. They save for a few days or a few weeks and then stop once life becomes busy. A habit only becomes strong when it survives ordinary life. Daily saving works because it fits into the everyday flow of living. It does not require a special occasion. It only requires a steady decision. A strong saving habit also helps reduce regret. Money spent without planning often disappears quickly and leaves little behind. Money saved with consistency becomes available when needed most. That feeling of readiness brings peace. It reduces the fear that comes from being unprepared and creates a sense of control that is hard to replace. Another important part of daily saving is simplicity. The method does not need to be complicated. What matters is that it happens regularly and without unnecessary delay. A simple system is easier to maintain than a complex one. When the process is clear, the habit becomes more durable. Consistency in saving also helps during difficult periods. Life does not always stay steady. Income can change, responsibilities can grow, and unexpected needs can appear. A person who saves daily is better prepared to handle those shifts. Even if the amounts are small, the habit creates a reserve that can make stressful moments easier to manage. The strength of daily saving is found in repetition. Repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity creates stability. Stability creates confidence. That chain is what turns a simple financial habit into a reliable part of life. When saving happens daily, it becomes less likely to be forgotten or neglected. Daily saving also improves awareness of money flow. It forces a person to pay attention to what comes in and what goes out. That awareness leads to better choices in other areas too. Spending becomes more thoughtful. Planning becomes more careful. The habit of saving strengthens the overall way money is handled. A person who saves consistently begins to think differently about wealth. Instead of chasing quick results, attention shifts towards steady progress. This view is healthier because it aligns with reality. Wealth usually grows through repeated actions that seem small but carry long-term value. Daily saving is one of those actions. It is also important to stay committed when progress feels slow. Early savings may not look impressive. The amounts may seem too small to matter. That is where discipline proves its value. Saving should not be judged only by immediate results. It should be respected as a process that builds strength over time. The habit becomes even more powerful when it is protected from interruption. Missing a day may seem harmless, but habits weaken when they are broken often. Consistency is built by honoring the routine even when it is inconvenient. The more often saving is practiced, the easier it becomes to continue. Daily saving also supports long-term goals by keeping them alive in the mind. Each act of saving is a reminder that the future deserves attention. It connects present choices to later outcomes. That connection is what gives saving deeper meaning. It is not only about money, it is about responsibility, foresight, and self-respect. Over time, a person who stays consistent with daily saving develops greater financial calm. There is less fear about tomorrow because preparation is already happening today. There is more confidence in handling needs because a habit of protection is already in place. This calmness does not come from luck. It comes from repetition. Saving daily is one of the clearest ways to build a strong financial character. It teaches control, patience, and discipline. It strengthens the ability to delay pleasure for greater stability. It builds a life that is less dependent on impulse and more guided by intention. A strong future is not created by rare moments of effort. It is built by ordinary days handled with care. Daily saving is one of those ordinary actions that creates extraordinary results over time. When the habit stays alive, financial stability grows quietly but powerfully in the background of life.